Greetings and welcome. So today I'm going to be doing the A to Z book tag. So thank you to Bonnie Nicole for tagging me. I'm very excited for this. I love tag videos. I feel like we're going to have a lot of fun with this. So let's get started. So for A, author you've read most books from. So for this, I would probably have to say John Green. I've read about 4 to 5 of his books. I did start Turtles all the way down and didn't end up finishing it. So that's why it's 4 or 5. I can't quite remember how many, but I do love a John Green book. Most authors, I feel like I read 1 or 2 of their books, but for John Green, I've read up to 5. B, best sequel ever. So I don't really read too many series, so I don't have too many sequels I have that stand out to me, but I was thinking about it, and I think The Subtle Knife from the Golden Compass series is probably the best sequel I've read. I read it a while ago. I really loved the entire Golden Compass series. It's so much fun. It's just such a great adventure and world. I think of all the sequels I've read, The Subtle Knife is the best. D, drink of choice while reading. I think for me it would be coffee, usually either a hot coffee with just some milk, or throughout the day, I love an iced coffee. I will drink an iced coffee any time of the year. It could be middle of the winter and I drink an iced coffee, because if I get one out, if I get a hot coffee, I'm too impatient and end up burning my mouth and then I can't taste the coffee. So I really consider any season to be iced coffee season. E, e-reader or physical book. So I definitely would choose a physical book over an e-reader, but I do also read a lot of ebooks, usually through the Libby app on my phone. So I'll take ebooks out of the library and read them on my phone. So I guess that's not as much an e-reader, but I do read ebooks as much as physical books. But if I had a choice, I would pick a physical book because it's just so nice holding it in your hand. G, glad you gave this book a chance. I would have to pick The Thursday Murder Club. So I hadn't thought I was really into murder mysteries, but I picked this one up because it sounded less intense than your typical murder mystery book, because it's a cozy murder mystery, and I absolutely loved it. It actually got me sort of more into reading mysteries. So since I read Thursday Murder Club, I feel like I've opened myself up to a whole new genre, so that was really fun. H, hidden gem book. So for this, I think I'd pick Fishbowl by Bradley Sommer. I feel like I haven't heard too much about it, but when I read it, I absolutely loved it. It's a multiple perspective book, and you've got the sort of overlapping storylines of everybody, so it sort of bounces back and forth between all the inhabitants of this one apartment building. It takes place over one day, so it's very short amount of time, and you just sort of see how people go about their day, and how even without like knowing each other, how their interactions and things they do sort of affect other people and how they're affected by everybody in this building without even really realizing it. So I really love a multi-perspective book, and this one was written really well because one of the perspectives is also a goldfish that ended up accidentally falling out of a window, so it's the perspective of a goldfish as it falls, and it was just very interesting. So that was sort of the central thing of the book, was that goldfish, and then it was everybody else in that building. So it was a very interesting story, and I would recommend it to everyone. It's a really well-written book and really fun. I, important moment in reading life. So for this, I think the first time I read Catcher in the Rye in my high school freshman English class, because for some reason, I feel like before that I had thought of classics and literature as very stuffy and dry, and I read this and went, hey, the grammar is not correct, and this is considered a classic, this is considered literature, and I'm being told to read it in English class. This is amazing. It like blew my mind that you could have a proper piece of literature that didn't have proper grammar in it, and for some reason that just like opened up my mind and went, okay, as long as the story is good, because it's part of the story and it's thematic. It's from Holden Caulfield's perspective, so he's not being grammatically correct, so it has a purpose to it. But for some reason, I had always just thought it had to be like, you know, very strict and not deviating to be like literature. And this was a book assigned to me in class, and it was crazy. Like, it wasn't that crazy, but for some reason my 14-year-old brain was like, wow, this is amazing. So for some reason, Catcher in the Rye was a very formative book for me, and it sort of brought in my idea of what counted as literature. So that really was an important book moment for me. Okay, kind of book you wouldn't read. So I am really not into horror, and especially anything that has like body horror. So even if it's like a lighter horror, something gross is happening to somebody's body, I'm like, nope, don't do gross things. I'd probably be a little bit more into like psychological horror, but like horror as a genre just doesn't draw me in. Because even there was the great book that was called, It was sort of a comedy adventure thing, but it had some body horror in it. I was like, oh, I wish I could read this, but this is going to disturb me. L, longest book read. I had to have a think about this. I wasn't sure what the longest book was, but I went through my shelf, and so the longest one on my shelf that I've read is Crossing California by Adam Langer. It's almost 500 pages. I feel like I might have read books that are longer, but I can't remember. I think they were ebooks, so I don't know if that counts, and I can't remember, and I didn't want to go scrolling back through and try to figure out which one was a long book, because it doesn't have the page count next to it. So on my shelf, the longest book I've read is Crossing California. That was a favorite of mine, I think back in college is when I first read it. And again, it's a multi-perspective story. It's sort of these 4 or 5 teenagers sort of living in the same town, and again, overlapping stories and how they interact with each other, how they affect each other kind of thing. And that's a really good book. At almost 500 pages, that is the longest book on my shelf that I have read. M, major book hangover. I'd have to say The Maze Runner. I read this book and I know there was a whole series, and as soon as I got to the end I went, I'm exhausted. I cannot even think like, how could I read the next book? And I think it took me a while to actually read something else because I was just like, no, I can't do anything else. This book was exhausting because they're just, again, they're trying to get out of the maze, and for some reason that like physically affected me, the mental capacity of them just continually running and trying to get out and trying to escape, and by the end it was like, wait, there's more? Oh no, I can't do it. So for some reason, The Maze Runner just absolutely exhausted me when I read it. So took me a while to get back into reading adventure books. And I think the biggest thing was I knew there were like 4 other books, and I was like, I cannot, at the end of this one, now jump into the next one, and it's going to be just as exhausting kind of feeling. So I was like, I don't know if I can do this. So I think The Maze Runner definitely gave me the biggest book hangover. N, number of bookcases you own. So for that, I think it's about 3 or 4. I don't know if you'd count, I have sort of a multimedia station that has game consoles and things, but it does have one shelf with books as well. So it's technically a bookcase, but it's not all books. So 3 or 4. So I've got 2 behind me, I've got a rotating one, and then like the one shelf on my multimedia station. Oh, one book you have read multiple times. So for that, I would have to be Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli. I was super into this book, I think in high school. I just absolutely connected with the character of Stargirl. I was like, I want to be her. She is so cool. She does not care what other people think. She just is herself and does whatever she wants, and she felt a little mythical and like magical in the book, and she just is just happy about everything. I was like, yes, I love Stargirl. I will just keep reading this book. And it was a very cozy, comforting book for me. So I've definitely read that one a lot. Q, quote that inspires you. So there's this quote from Hogfather, which I actually haven't read the book yet, but I've seen the movie, and obviously it's also in the book. I pulled the quote from the book. There's the one from the end of Hogfather. So they're trying to save Hogswatch. And so Susan's asking, what would have happened if we hadn't saved it? The idea was, if you don't save it, the sun won't rise. A star will come over the horizon. It's the idea that the belief is the important part. So Death is saying, take the universe and grind it down to the finest powder and sieve it through the finest sieve, and then show me one atom of justice, one molecule of mercy. You need to believe in things that aren't true. How else can they become? So it's the idea that people need to believe in the little things like the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus or the Hogfather, to believe in things like justice and mercy and the other intangible things in the world that need to be believed in order to exist. It's a very inspiring quote for me. It emphasizes the idea of belief, and if you believe in something, you can make it true kind of idea. R, reading regret. So I really don't have too many reading regrets, because if I'm reading a book and I don't like it, I just DNF it. So there's nothing like too regretful. It's like, okay, I tried that, didn't like it, move on. But one book that I really wish I hadn't read was Flirtasaurus. It was kind of weird, and I realized I got about halfway through before I realized that I did not like it, and I hated the character. It was weird because I was like, okay, this character is very dysfunctional. She'll get better by the end. And like halfway through, she was still absolutely dysfunctional and just doing batshit crazy things. And I was like, no, I don't care about you anymore. I can't get through the rest of this book. She worked at a museum and somehow got sort of roped into like chaperoning a kid's sleepover at the museum, which was fine. But then she was there with like the guy she liked because he also worked at the museum. And somehow she accidentally got high, and then they were going to go into a different room and have sex. And I was like, no, I don't like this. I thought it was going to get better, and it just kept getting worse. And I was like, no, this is terrible. So I absolutely hated Flirtasaurus. T, 3 all-time favorite books. So I think my top 3 all-time favorite books are The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, The Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George, and Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. So I love all three. I've read them multiple times. I love The Night Circus for how sort of mystical and magical it is, and just the circus vibes along with the enemies to lovers romance kind of thing, and it's just written so well. And then Little Paris Bookshop is a really fun sort of cozy adventure, a little bit romance, and just written very well. And then Ready Player One is just such a sort of nostalgic, fun sci-fi, and I just love the concept of the Oasis and the competition they go through, and all the visuals and the storyline is really fun. I actually still need to watch the movie. I love the book and have read it a few times. You, unapologetic fangirl for author or books. So I recently became a really big fangirl for Terry Pratchett and the Discworld series. I discovered it when this is amazing. There are 41 books. I need to read them all because they're all incredible. I just keep seeing quotes from them and go, this is my vibe. I am super intensely into the Discworld series now. I've been just starting my way through all the books, and I'm hoping eventually to read them all, and then I'll probably reread them because they're just so intricate and fun and comedy fantasy, but satirical, and I just absolutely love it. I was looking for like a new fantasy series, and then I discovered this and went, yes, this is my jam. This is what I'm getting into now. So it's been really fun discovering Discworld and just getting really into it, because I haven't really had anything other than Good Omens. Like, I had Good Omens that I got really into, and so I knew I really loved Terry Pratchett's writing. I went, okay, what else has he written? Oh my gosh, this is all amazing. So I feel like being really into Terry Pratchett's writing kind of includes Good Omens. So it was really nice to have a series that I could get really into. I haven't had that in a while, so I needed a new one. So I've been very excited about the Discworld series, and I'm gonna do my darndest to read all of them. V, very excited for this release more than others. So I don't really follow new releases. I'm not that up to date on new books, but one I did see that's coming out that I got very excited over is Audrey Lane Stirs the Pot by Alexis Hall, because it's her next book in the Winner Bakes All series, which has Rosalina Palmer Takes the Cake and Paris Dalincourt is About to Crumble, which I've read both and they're amazing. So I'm so excited for the next one in the sort of British baking show romance books. It's just such a fun concept, so I'm really excited for the next one because I wasn't aware there was a third one coming out, so I'm very excited to read that. W, worst bookish habit. So I think my worst bookish habit is my book hopping, or just reading too many books at once. I had this issue earlier in the year where I was reading about 5 books at once and just kept like forgetting about the last book I read. I'd start one, start a next, and I just kept losing books. I'd accidentally DNF a bunch of books because I just jumped to the next one. Because it's perfectly fine if I'm actually reading a bunch of books all at once, but I'd just start a new book and forget about the last ones. Sometimes I get overexcited or too, ooh, shiny, new thing, that I start a book and then don't end up finishing it, which was getting to be frustrating for me. So I feel like that's probably my worst habit. Z Snatcher, or last book that kept you up late. So I don't usually read right before bed too often, so I haven't had too many that have kept me up, but I think recently the 10,000 Doors of January probably was the last one that kept me up late, because I was really enjoying it and I was trying to finish it for the book club, so I had a time crunch on it, plus I just didn't want to put it down. So I think that one probably kept me up the latest. Alright, so that's the A to Z book tag. Thank you again to Bonnie Nicole for tagging me, and I'm going to tag A Dark Corner of the Library, Ficca and Fiction, and Spinster's Library. So I hope you guys have fun with that. Thank you for sticking around and watching this video, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.